everybody. Welcome back to Tom's World of Marketing. I'm your host, Tom Foster, and today we've got a guest who is doing something genuinely fascinating in the legal space. He's not an attorney. He's never worked inside a law firm, and yet he walked into one and told them to give him 90 days, and when those 90 days were up, he had increased their close rate from 50% to 84%. That's pretty incredible. My next guest is Michael Patrick Strach, known in the industry as MPS, and he is the legal sales expert and co-architect behind Your Practice Mastered, where he leads what they call the closing room. Over the last 5 years, he and his team have helped law firms generate north of $20 million in additional revenue, not by getting more leads, but by getting more out of the leads they already have. That's a message near and dear to my heart. Michael, welcome to the show, and it's great to see you again.
Tom, it's my pleasure. I appreciate you having me. It's good to reconnect again. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, just for everybody to know, I've known Michael for many, many years, and his father. And Michael helped us out a couple years ago when we were with some of this. So this is great. And so why don't you tell me a little bit about your origin story, how you got involved in doing this?
Yeah.
With no law firm background, no legal training, and you're just a bold, brave guy, and very confident and very good at what you do. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your origin story?
Well, I appreciate that. And I've always loved sales, right? Sales is just in anything that I've ever done. I remember being a kid.
Yeah, I love this story.
Yeah. So, and I've got so many, and my neighbors back in the day can testify. But I remember around Christmas time one year, we were getting, things together for the holidays, and on a whim, I decided, you know what? I want to go out there. I want to sell chocolate chip cookies. I'm just going to go door to door. I'm going to go sell chocolate chip cookies because why not? Every 10-year-old does that, right? And I did. And I remember coming back and I told him, this goes to tell you where I really like to spend my time. I like to spend my time in sales. I've learned that I have to embrace and enjoy operations. But I remember coming home and looking at my mom and I was like, all right, Ma, so I know you didn't know I was going out, but we've got 120 orders to fulfill.
Get baking.
Yeah. And she looked at me like with 10 heads. She's like, you've got to be kidding me. What did you do? And that really sums up how I used to be as a kid. I just always have loved sales. Fast forward that. And I started.
Hold on before you get just because you had a YouTube business back when you were like 12 years old.
Yep.
And embrace YouTube, and we're putting stuff out there.
Yes.
And making money from YouTube when it was first getting going, right?
I did. So for those of you, and I know you're familiar because you and I chatted about this originally. Yeah. For those of you that know Wix.com for website building, I started to create training content for Wix, and it was independent, and it just started to snowball. I would record it, upload it to YouTube, and it just kept compounding. Like that compounding effect on YouTube was awesome, and built up a really, really strong base of people and started to build my list. And then that offered me the opportunity as I continued to scale and grow that YouTube channel to build a web development agency. And so I did. And it was purely fueled by YouTube leads. I would get leads that came through YouTube, come through the funnel, and built an agency up. And that was through while I was in college. And I'm very grateful to the opportunity YouTube presented me. I mean, it was able to sustain me a six-figure income all through college. And not everybody has the opportunity.
That's so great. Good for
you. It was
sure
fantastic.
Parents were very happy too.
Yeah. Hey, but you know what? They one thing I can always say is they've always been extremely supportive and always continued to contribute and help out, which I appreciated. But yeah, I did, and YouTube presented an incredible opportunity. But as I got ready to kind of wind down and graduate college, one thing was very apparent to me, which was as much as I loved creating content for YouTube and I loved the sales process for selling web development, I did not love web development. Like I didn't love the deliverable. It wasn't something that I truly spent my time just researching, passionate about. And I know there's the, go follow your passion, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't
Right,
that for me.
right.
Yep. So I kind of wound it down slowly. I didn't have some crazy exit with that business. I just wound things down and started to cut the content creation. And that's when I came to Rich. And for those that don't know, Richard James, he's my father. We actually do have the same last name. I know that's a little confusing, but Strauch is a little tough to say. So he went by James. And I came to him and I said, hey, I'd love to do something together. He had grown Partners Club, which is kind of the foundational program behind Your Practice Mastered, and that's been almost 17 years now that he's had Partners Club, and he had it in a position that he had more time and freedom. And I looked at him. He's like, yeah, let's do something. And I instantly knew that sales was the backbone of what I wanted to do, just because I enjoy it so much. And originally the conversation was not around lawyers. Like it was not around law firms. It was sales training. And then as he and I started having back and forth conversations about it, he's like, well, we're trying to think of a niche to go into. I've got all these members in Partners Club, and lawyers and law firms could really use sales training. And I said, okay, yeah, that's fine. Let's give it a shot. And so we started a member of Partners Club. A bankruptcy firm out in Maryland was very gracious and willing to give me 90 days to step into their firm. And I said, hey, just give me 90 days. I want to do this for free, but I want a case study at the end of this. That's all I'm asking for.
Oh, so you did it for you put your
Yep.
Put your name on the line.
I put my name on the line.
Wow.
Yep. I said, this is going to be, I want to go out there and I want to prove this because I felt in order to truly provide a sales training company for law firms, not only for the sake of attorneys wanting proof, for myself wanting the proof that it works, I wanted to do this. And I did. And you mentioned this at the start. I had 90 days. They started at about a 50% close rate. They weren't collecting a ton of down payment cash up front. And at the end of those 90 days, rolled it up, took them to an 84% close rate, increased their cash collection substantially compared to where it was. And that was the first success story. And that's where...
How long did it take to get going? Was it right away? Or how long did it take for you to kind of train them and work with them?
There's a funny story actually about this. And again, I have a sales background, so it was pretty quick for me. I remember on a Friday, they had sent me over just like a little cheat sheet for bankruptcy to understand, okay, here's kind of what to look for to figure out if it's going to be a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13, right? So I started just researching and studying up on that. And then Monday, I was shadowing their attorney for consults. And I remember we get to lunchtime on Monday, and and the sales brain side of me was like, hey, Mr. Attorney, I really appreciate you letting me shadow. Can I just step in? Can I just start running consults?
I just do it?
Yeah. And he's like, well, do you want a few days of shadow? I was like, no, I really just love the opportunity to step in and just start. And he's like, all right, fine. Let me be on the rest of them with you for today. And sure, that's fine. And I remember day one goes by. I got a couple deals closed for the consults the rest of the day. And then by the next day, I was up and running. And I just kind of took them and started running with it. And his wife is also in the practice. And she said, hey, are you sure you don't want to continue to be on his consults just to make sure? Like, what if they all sound different? And for those of you that know us and what we subscribe to, we use the same structure, same script, every consult, every time. And he pulls up a call, and he's like, hey, if you want to hear what each consult sounds like, listen to this quick. And she goes, well, what about the other ones? And he goes, you don't have to listen to the other ones. They're exactly the same as this consult. And it's true. And that's exactly what we did and created the runway. And before you know it, 90 days in, there we are. We're at an 84% close rate. And they're rocking and rolling. Now it's time for me to try to help find someone else to step in for them.
Wow, that's a great story, man, and good for you for doing
Thank you.
that. And so, have you been able to? Okay, before I get there,
Yeah.
attorneys are very skeptical,
Yes.
and they've heard it all, and they've been burned. You know all
Hmm.
this,
Yeah.
and so as you have grown over the
Mm.
years
Yeah.
to do this, do you deal with that skepticism, and how do you deal with that skepticism?
Yes, that skepticism is alive and well, and I get it.
Yeah, yeah, me too,
I
of course.
understand, right? So how do we deal? Well, one, it helps now to have just a mountain of proof.
Evidence, right,
Yeah,
right.
that always usually helps with an attorney is actually seeing that it works and having the results to stand behind. So there's that. But from a less results oriented standpoint, I find that there's two types of law firms. There's law firm A, the one that wants to keep it small, keep it all. They want to get to that 1 to 1.5 million range, keep high profitability, hopefully, and just kind of maintain that zone. In which case, the thought of maybe adding sales process or non-attorney salesperson or really honing in, some of them aren't as invested in it because they're not trying to grow and scale. And so those are typically the firms that aren't necessarily in alignment with what we're doing. And then you have law firm B. Law firm B is a little bit different. They're the ones that do want to scale. And so what I always tell them is, okay, so once you do hit that 1 to 1.5 range, if you truly want to scale, most of the time the law firm owner is still taking their own consults in many of
Right.
those scenarios, right? You're not going to have much more capacity to scale past that zone yourself
Yeah.
because you're the salesperson, you're the lawyer, you're the manager, you're the business development, maybe managing marketing, you're HR, you're the accountant, right? You're wearing all of these hats. And so for you to scale past that zone, you're either going to have to replace yourself with an attorney salesperson or a non-attorney salesperson. And there's pros and cons to both of those, but it's for this reason that in the last, 2 years, we've switched from being a consulting first company to we're a staffing first company now, and we staff non-attorney salespeople. And because we come from the consulting and training background, we know exactly what needs to happen and put the proper training procedures in place once we staff non-attorney salespeople for law firms. And and we stand behind using a non-attorney salesperson as compared to an attorney salesperson in the console.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, and good for you that you've made these adjustments along the way as you learn how the business works and how different law firms are and how they operate. And
Thank you.
you're 100% right, is that lawyers don't think about that. They want more cases, better cases. That's always the mantra, right?
Yeah.
More, better, more, and better.
Yes.
And then they don't realize what happens after they get that, right? Just to your
Yes.
point. And it's not only scaling up on the staffing of closing sales, it's
Mm-hmm.
staffing up on everything in the back end.
100%. That's always the next challenge. All right, we've got a bunch of cases now. Congratulations. Now I got to fulfill them.
Right. And now you got to keep the clients happy.
Now you got to keep the clients happy, and that's
Which,
where having the right workflow systems and processes, obviously the right people running those systems, is so important. And I want to give a shout out to just one of our longest standing clients, immigration firm, Bert Diener. He worked with us. He's the mastermind behind what we call Flow. And it's all about getting the most out of your workflow process. And so he has created a wonderful operating system for law firms, but really for businesses to make sure they're maximizing their effectiveness, client satisfaction, and efficiency once they get the cases in.
was that a different OS that he's developed for lawyers? I've heard of
Yes.
Flow.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of like flow is a very common
Okay,
used
all right.
term and
I'm
word
like,
out
is
there.
that the guy that made Flow that I've heard of before?
Yes, but yes, it is kind of a management operating system for workflow, but it really bleeds into every aspect of the law
Interesting.
firm. Yep.
Maybe I need to get him on the podcast, talk about
I
that.
I would highly recommend. Bert
All
is
right.
doing some really impressive things.
All right, I'll follow up with you about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the closing room framework. You've taken attorneys across 15 practice areas: bankruptcy, PI, family law, criminal, you said
Yeah.
immigration, you name it, and moved their
Yeah.
close rates from an average starting point of around 33% to up to 65 to 70% within the first month. That's incredible. It's not just improvement, that's transformation.
Mm.
What are 2 or 3 universal principles that apply across all these practice areas?
Great question. Okay, let's start with the foundational one: script and structure. That's layer one. I very seldom do I walk into a law firm or our team walks into a law firm and they have a script and structure in place for consults. Like very seldom. And if they do, it's very loose and fluid. And so step one, putting the script and structure. We have the 19-step script and structure. That's what we use. That's what allows firms that use our program to get the 60 to 80% close rates that we want them to be in. So that's the foundational element. And sometimes law firms, here's an important point I want to make. Some firms don't love scripts, structures. I get it. We've built it in a way where it's very conversational because the goal behind the initial consultation, A, is to get the prospect to retain the firm. That's the primary goal, right? But in order to do that, we've got to build and establish a strong relationship and trust with the prospect during the consult,
100%.
right? So we've got to establish, what we call the hell and the heaven. We've got to build that relationship and that rapport because prospects make emotional buying decisions and they justify with logic. And so putting that script and structure is the first step there, and it's built to be conversational, but it is a script and structure. So some firms hear that and think, well, let me deviate or change. No. The firms that win are the firms that use the 19 steps. They use the script and structure, and sure, everyone's delivery style, their tonality, their pacing, that's going to be different because it's got to fit the person running the script so it sounds natural for them and conversational for them, which leads me to my second point: the right who. And so for a very long time, we would do our best with training to take whoever was running consults for a law firm and do our best to make them the right who and try to train them properly. And there is a level you can get to with that. But what we very much discovered is it is equally as important who is running that 19-step structure as the structure itself. And so then it's making sure you get the right who. Well, how do you know you get the right who? Well, what I could tell you from the experience that we go through when recruiting non-attorney sales people is the most important step is the skills test. For us, it's called the 96-hour test. And that is designed to test 2 things: ableness and willingness. Are they able and willing to follow the 19-step structure? And in a 4-day period, can they demonstrate that and demonstrate that they can deliver it confidently and they've put the time in to memorize it? That skills test, that is the thing that allows us to get real clarity on if a salesperson is going to be an A player and perform or if they can't even make the cut. And those are 2 universal truths that we know for a fact make a monumental difference on if someone is able to truly take it and get to that 60 to 80% close rate in that first month. And I'll give you a third quick one, is just a belief in enforcement from the law firm, because nothing will hinder this process more than if a law firm wants it to work, but their actions speak so loud that they don't actually want it to work. Almost like an undermining of it. Like,
they want to control the process.
Exactly. And want to control the process, which is why I
Instead of
believe.
believe in it, right?
Yep.
Instead of support it, and they want to throw rocks at it, and they think they can do it better.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly right.
And that's where you get to your law firm A or law firm B, right? And I'm sure you do. Now, let me ask you this question:
Yeah.
where do you get most of your leads from? Is it through referrals, or are you doing marketing for your business yourself?
Yeah, you mean for the law firms coming through?
Yeah, for you
Yeah.
guys.
Um, well, and this has been fun because now we have two sides of the coin now because we do so much staffing as a primary because we have funnels for candidates and then we have funnels for law firms. And I will tell you, um, referrals have definitely increased since we've made a move to staffing. Referrals have gone up. Sometimes consulting, people like to try to gatekeep,
Yeah, yeah,
their
yeah, yeah.
access. Staffing is a totally different ballgame, and so
That's a different
referrals.
way to get in there.
It is.
100%.
So referrals have gone up. We do have some, ads out there currently, but our big push really in the last year, two forms of organic. A, just pure organic through podcast, website, content creation, and deliverables. Our newsletter. That's been so helpful because we've shifted the marketing team's focus to be purely organic. And two, partnership, honestly, with
Yeah.
a lot of legal marketing agencies
Yeah.
because they have a lot of law firms that might struggle with conversion. And as you've probably experienced, if a law firm struggles with conversion, sometimes that somehow in a roundabout world
That's
falls
our
back.
fault.
Yeah, exactly. On the marketing agency, which can be
Not their
incredibly
fault.
frustrating.
Never.
Right,
We
right.
can deliver all the leads under the sun, and they still will blame us for not closing or not closing and not
Exactly.
taking care of the client. And they're anyway, yeah. But
Yeah.
it's you're right. It's a two-edged sword, and you got to work together on it. And I love that you're getting into firms through staffing, and then okay, well, here's how we do it,
Yep.
right? Instead
Yeah.
of like, let me consult with you and then hire, a sales and all that. I love the other way of getting in there. It's
Yeah. And
brilliant.
well, I appreciate that, and I think what made that possible is because we came from a consulting and training background. Is we already knew what needed to happen once someone got placed in a role. It's just for the longest time we didn't go down the staffing path, quite honestly, because we weren't sure we wanted to go down the staffing path. But once we made the decision and we commit, we're a company that commits, and so it helps to be able to provide a full circle experience of, all right, let's place the staff person. And rather than you having to now go figure it out and do it on your own.
Right now, they come totally prepared.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
great. All right, you may have already answered this, but I'm interested in your
Yeah.
input. Sales culture in a law firm.
Mm,
There's a real psychological resistance in the legal profession to the word sales.
yes.
Attorneys went to law school to practice law, not to sell. How do you get buy-in from attorneys who bristle at the idea that their consultation is actually a sales conversation? And how do you reframe that without making them feel like they're compromising their ethics or professionalism?
Really good question. Zig Ziglar has a good quote on this. Sales is not something we do to our prospects. It's something we do for our prospects. And so the easiest way for me to help attorneys kind of reframe this conversation is you've got a pool of people, your leads. They're setting appointments with you. What's a common attribute all of these people have? They're all looking for help. Now,
They all have problems that you
they
can
all have
solve.
problems,
Right.
right? They all have problems, and they've reached out to your law firm because evidently they have a problem in your law firm's practice area. Let's use that as a fundamental truth, excluding people that are non-qualified for some reason,
Sure.
right? Okay, so every consult we run is an opportunity to take someone who needs help and get them the help that they need. But every time we don't turn that prospect into a client, that now means that's someone that went unserved and likely means they're going to either another law firm in our geographical location or just going completely unserved. And so what I always say is what we're really doing here is amplifying the amount of people we help. Because when you look at it from that perspective, yeah, you can look at it from normal sales lingo. We got a bunch of prospects. We're trying to close as many as we can. Sure. But what does that mean in practicality? It means we are now amplifying the number of people we help and we serve. And if you believe your law firm is the best law firm in your practice area and your geographical location, then you should want to be able to help as many of those people as humanly possible. What's the way you do that? You maximize how many of those turn into clients. That's sales. Now, we can package it as something different, but that's sales. That's
Right.
what that mechanism
Call it
is.
something else, but that's what it is.
Right.
And it must be done. I mean,
It does. It never mind like, and that's looking at it just from like the help perspective of helping prospects. Now the business perspective side of you as a law firm owner, right? Well, that is your mechanism of growth. And so if that conversion metric is off, it's going to screw everything else up in the process. You're not going to be able to scale and grow. You're not going to have the cash flow that you want to be able to reinvest into marketing, to reinvest into workflow. Like that one function right there in the law firm happens to be one of the most important functions in the law firm outside of the attorneys working the case and getting the outcome that needs to be got for that client.
that's great, buddy.
Thank you.
That's a great answer. Okay, one more question for you. The bigger
Yeah.
picture. You're now part of a full ecosystem at your practice mastered. Intake, closing, staffing, consulting, mastermind. When you zoom out and look at a law firm that has truly mastered all of these systems working together, what does that firm look like, and what does life look like for the attorney who built it?
Now that's the magic question, right?
I think it's
I would
different
tell you
for all firms, but
exactly.
Yeah.
So I would tell you it depends on the vision that the law firm owner has.
Right,
I know that
right.
sounds a little bit cheesy sometimes, but it's true.
It is true.
depends. It depends on the vision. So where I have found in the last 3 years, a lot of law firm owners say they want to get to is they want to get to the CEO level of their law firm. Well, what does that look like if we map this out? Well, what the CEO level of the law firm ultimately looks like is that you as a law firm owner are sitting in that CEO seat and you've got a management team under you that's managing all of the operations, the sales, the workflow, the client success.
you are delegating. You're
delegating.
delegating, and
You-
you're picking your cases that you want to do, but you're really spending more time running the law firm.
Exactly. You're focused on the high level decisions. You're focused on the business development, and you're focused, quite honestly, when you get to that size, and I can speak personally from this, a shift happens and you become much more focused on people and having the right people and much more focused on systems and having the right systems in place for those people to run. And you have freedom because
Right.
that's the whole point of becoming the CEO is you're no longer in the day-to-day grind. You're not making the day-to-day small decisions. You're making the larger overarching decisions, and you have the freedom to do really whatever you want.
With your
Whatever
life,
you
right?
want your
Which
days
is
to
what
look
you
like.
want.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of lawyers, and disagree with me if you want, but a lot of lawyers, they're just burnt out with practicing law, running an inefficient law firm.
Yep.
And they think this is their life, but it's not. I mean, there's so many so successful lawyers. You've worked with them, I've worked with them.
Yep.
That have created the life that they wanted. They started from craziness and chaos,
Oh, yeah.
but they were smart enough to build this management team, to delegate out, to put their ego aside. They don't have to be the best. As a matter
Right.
of fact, if they're the best in their law firm, they got a problem with scaling. They
Yes.
they got to get lawyers. Otherwise, they're always going to be the ones called on to do everything. And everybody's going to be running to, what do I do now? What do I do now? Because they're not delegating out to others that might be better at certain things than they are.
Exactly. And you hit the nail on the head. And that life of freedom is absolutely attainable and possible for all law firms. But there's steps you have to take and be willing to take. And to your point, put a little bit of that ego and control aside to let other people start to take some of the tasks that you've been running for so long. And that's what's going to allow you to free yourself up to the next level. Now, along the way, you obviously need to create the cash flow to support you to be able to actually put those people in place, which is why all these other metrics, we call it the PCLC, the perfect client life cycle, all those other metrics along the process, they need to be maintained. They need to be nurtured. And we need to make sure they're where they're at, because that's what's going to create the cash flow and consequently proper money management and profitability to allow us to reinvest in the people to help you get to that CEO level.
You help them with that too.
Yeah, that's what Partners Club is all about, is really making sure, holistically as a law firm that we're managing, we call them the pipelines. We're managing all of our pipelines properly. And one of those pipelines is profit pipeline. And we're adequately making proper financial decisions to make sure we've got the cash flow in place to support continued scaling and growth, whether that means investing more volume into marketing or whether that means investing in a new associate, investing in another salesperson, making people decisions.
Right. A lot of lawyers and businesses assume that marketing is the problem always, and It's not. Marketing can present, as we just talked about, more problems for you if you're not prepared for the success of it.
True.
This is what happens over and over and over again, is that they're stubborn. And they're not, and I'm not just picking on lawyers, because we work with doctors too, and all kinds of different
business owners.
Yeah, business owners in general, entrepreneurs, and there are a lot of lawyer entrepreneurs. That's part of what being a lawyer is being an entrepreneur. Okay, Michael, what is the best way for someone to get a hold of you, to talk to you about your program, and to get some help?
Well, first off, I just want to thank you for the time. Yeah. This is fun. I'm happy we had opportunity to reconnect. But for those of you that want to learn more about the non-attorney sales recruitment, which is really the primary offer, that's nonattorneysalespeople.com. But if you're not into that for some reason and you just want some help around just overall practice growth, yourpracticemaster.com, and you can learn a little bit more about what we're doing, and we can get you hooked up and have a conversation.
That's fantastic, and we should be publishing this podcast next week.
Cool.
So we'll get it out quick, and we'll promote it. And let me just tell everybody. Oh, thank you, buddy. Mm-hmm. I've known Michael for many years, his father for many years. I know what kind of work that they do, and I'm telling you, it's great stuff. Michael and I have worked together before in the past. I'm sure we'll work again in the future. He's got a great deliverable. And if this is your problem, which most of you have this problem, I recommend 100% to talk to Michael. At least have a conversation with him to see if he can help you out, because he has worked with so many firms and made them successful to their dreams, to what they want. And it's, as we just said, it's custom, it's individual. He's not going to put you in a box. Oh, you're like this firm. He's going to make sure that he's taking care of you individually the way that you need to be taken care of. I know that. I experienced it myself. He brought his script to us a couple years ago, and it worked great. And I want to talk to him again about helping me again. So I'm going to be talking to Michael. So you better run to the phone, because he might be busy. All right, everybody.
I appreciate that, Tom. Thank you. I really appreciate the kind words. And at the end of the day, that's the success of the client, and that is the win, right? That's what allows us to continue to be around, and that's the best part of being in this role, is getting to see that firsthand.
Exactly, and I totally agree with you there. I've been doing this 30 years, and that's always the joy I get, is successful clients. That's what it's all about.
Amen.
Okay, buddy. Thank you so much, Michael. Everybody, it's been Tom and Michael. Michael, you stay here. On the World of Marketing, and we will see you in a week or so. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Michael.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.